What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sons of Thunder, and we have the full team today. Yep, everybody, give it up. We've got Chase back. He was feeling under the weather last week, so we're happy that he is feeling good, healthy, and right today to be back on stream. And then we've got our friend Chris from Defending a Lion, also live with us as he filled in for Chase last week, but now he's just extra, and we're happy to have him. So, we went over last week. We started our case for God, and we're just going to jump right back in. What is the case for God? Last week we talked mostly about science, and so there's a lot of evidence, right? A lot of evidence. Don't remember, but don't worry. Just remember SMART. We love acronyms around here. So we've got science, morality, accurate prophecy, resurrection, and truth is self-evident. For science, since the creation of the universe, God's invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and authority, so that they are without excuse. As Romans 1, verse 20. We talked about how the Big Bang, fine-tuning in DNA with physics, chemistry, and biology are all excellent evidences of a divine creator, of an intelligent designer. And there were many more things. We had a huge multiple lists. If you're interested in the science aspect, I highly recommend you go back and watch our first live stream. We had a lot to talk about. It was 2 hours long, and we discussed a lot of science and things that were not even in the presentation. And Chris provided some excellent extra information. And today we're going to move into our next category. And actually, we will probably finish the rest of the acronym. We'll finish MART. And so we will start with morality. So
ambitious
defined
around.
So
that's ambitious with me around, but
yeah. Well, you'll see. It's the rest of the slides. I don't know why, Chase's dad, who designed this, loves science a lot, and you can tell that he definitely put a lot of care and extra time into the science portion. There was like 19 videos for the science portion. There was 2 videos for the rest of the acronym. So everything else did not seem like it even needed a video. Science apparently needed all the videos and needed like 14 slides on its own. I don't know why, or like 20 slides on its own. Anyways, so getting into morality, the universal truth that there are actions which are objectively right and actions which are objectively wrong. And that I believe that we can know for a fact that there are things that are right and wrong. And that's easy for us to point out. We can point out things like the Holocaust, right? That was wrong. That we don't have to debate whether that was wrong, even though some try to today. That we can know that the senseless killing of a people group, just because you don't like them, is wrong and not justifiable. Conscience and internal awareness of right and wrong, innocence and guilt. However, where does it come from? This is the real question. It's not about, is there an objective morality? It's about, if objective morality is true, where does it actually come from? And so purely naturalistic processes just can't account for the existence of the conscience. And guys, always feel free if you want to, if you have anything to say about the topic and I'm moving, just stop me. But because Chase and I did a video on this fairly early into our channel's existence, and I think it's the one that has the second most pushback. Surprisingly, the video we did on atheism that got the most pushback was evangelism to atheists. That one got the most shut ups and don't talk to us
for no reason either. We were nothing but cool.
That is my favorite, is being told. I'll look it up. Well, one of you are sharing something later. I'll look it up. My favorite comment was like, how to evangelize to atheists. don't leave us alone. I was like, okay, my bad. Um, but so Paul Copen, he said it's exceedingly difficult to see how we move from the Big Bang to morally responsible human beings. If we're just material beings produced by a material universe, then objective value or goodness can't be accounted for. And I would absolutely agree. If there was nothing designing us, if we're not composed of something greater than just, floating particles of stardust that come together and compress us into a being somehow, if there's nothing guiding that or establishing us to be more, then why do anything, right? There's nothing driving us personally to be good. It's really just up to us to decide what we think is right. What's up, J Day? Thank you for jumping in.
Is that Justin, bro?
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Justin?
But
yeah, see, all right, Andrew, you've completely here's the plot, and then here's you, right? Like it's won over you, right?
I missed it, right?
You see, didn't you know that conscience was it just necessary in the universe? Like it had to come about. Like it's just necessary. Like it was gonna happen eventually, and it just did. And so now we're like this, and that's why conscience exists, not because you're some, not because of God.
It's natural, right? We naturally would have developed a conscience because we needed it for survival.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't even have a conscience. It's just a figment of your imagination, which you also don't have.
Also, the idea that other people are governed by a similar set of morals is also a figment of your imagination, and that it's not true.
Well, didn't you know that the best argument against objective morality is that other people do bad thing?
Yes,
that
is the best one.
If people do bad thing, then obviously morality cannot be objective, because why would they do the bad thing?
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously, and then justice also actually exists, because if someone does something bad, you have to punish them for it. But justice also can't exist because we're all just slaves to our deterministic chemical processes.
Don't get me started on determinism, Chris. The favorite topic. If y'all saw the stream on Saturday, I made a blanket challenge. I got my argument against determinism. It's unparalleled and it's undefeated. And so, come on, let's hear it. You naturalistic determinists. It works better against you, actually.
It does, yeah.
You
don't have a way to explain against it.
Right.
We were in a group chat. The three of us and another friend were in a group chat last night, and I brought this up about how I have met a couple of people who are very, very consistent with their view. And so I do think it's interesting, and they would be naturalistic determinists. And so I had a conversation with one young man who was a naturalistic determinist, and he said, when I asked him about, okay, so if you believe everything has been predetermined because there's no way that things can't be, because we're just, everything exploded out into being and it would always be this way, there was never another option. Do you live like that? He was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, do you live like all of your actions have been predetermined? So there's nothing else you could do other than what you're going to do. And he said, oh, no. He's like, if I did, I'd be a nihilist. I was like, oh, perfect. Okay. He said, however, I think that even my reactions are predetermined. Like I can't, he's like, when somebody does something wrong to me, I can't then, feel like, oh, I don't need to be sad about this. They always would have done that. Like, no, I'm sad about it because there's nothing else I could have done because my reaction had already been predetermined. I was like, well, that's consistent. It's like, that's, I guess, fair to your position and consistent. And most of the time I don't meet that many consistent people of that position. So kudos to him. I still disagree with it, but yeah, that it kind of puts, puts you in this box. I think if you hey Bucky,
Bucky.
I'm doing something here. But one thing that I wanted to point out too, if you want to go get I would not recommend watching him for literally anything else. But if you want to go get a really good like hearing of what the other side, what is the subjective morality side believe, go listen to. I don't even want to plug the podcast. I hate the podcast that this happened on. But Trent Horn, a Catholic apologist, was debating Destiny, who is a YouTuber. Yeah, I don't like Destiny at all. And it was on the Whatever podcast, which is also disgusting. However, if you just take this one moment, they have a debate over objective morality versus subjective morality. And Trent pushes him on a lot and even gets, straight up asks him like, is sexual assault wrong in your worldview? Or do you just have to say, well, it makes me feel bad, and because it makes me feel a certain way, I have to say that it's not good, but you can't objectively say it's not okay to do that to somebody else. And Destiny does concede and say, yeah, no, I can't ever say that it's actually wrong because I don't believe there's anything like real.
Right.
And it's pretty ridiculous. So if you want to go check that out, that debate, I think, is a really good way to sum up where the two sides have these major differences and why, in my opinion, objective morality not only makes more sense, I think it just has to be true, because I know that there are things that are wrong, just flat out.
Yeah. Which, I mean, even within that worldview of naturalism, there is no way you can say that SA is wrong or even that it's bad, because there are many species on this planet that use it primarily for reproduction. So if evolution is the driver of morality, their bears and ducks primarily reproduce through SA. And it's an evolutionary advantage for them. So why wouldn't it be an evolutionary advantage for us? If a breedable female is not willing to reproduce, wouldn't evolutionarily forcing her to reproduce be better than not from a naturalistic perspective?
And there you can have as I'm reading the book Dominion by, I'm not even gonna say his name, not Spider-Man, but by Tom Holland,
Spider-Man,
seeing the development of Christian thought. Like, this is one of those things that is like the backbone of Christian thought, is the idea of objective morality, and that we know things are right and wrong, and that people can violate the conscience that God has written into the heart, and that like you can have objectively a wrong view. You can do something that is bad and needs to be punished, and needs, not that the society has determined it to be bad, but that a greater force or power has determined that that thing is wrong and shouldn't happen.
Yep.
The Bible declares that God has programmed a conscience within us. So who show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also providing witness. Romans 2:15. And a former atheist, C.S. Lewis, maintained that the fact of the universal morality was powerful evidence of God. Here is the argument. There is a universal moral law. If there is a universal moral law, there is a moral lawgiver. If there is a moral lawgiver, it must be something beyond the universe. Therefore, there is something beyond the universe. I would say that's a super logical mentality. That's a super understandably logical mentality to have, because there are those out there who think that the laws that govern the universe had pre-existence, that they spawned in with the Big Bang and whatever else came into existence, and helped guide the universe into its natural processes, and it helped shape the universe, where they give these laws essentially deity, as me and Chris talked about last week, that they basically elevate laws to a deified position. They just don't give them intelligent thought or the ability to care. Wait, Chris, you're muted.
Yeah, I was casting out a fly from my room. Anyway.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so that's, if we are being just honest with ourselves, if there is a universal moral law, if you can get someone into this position, and I will say, I'm sure everybody here would agree with me that it has never been more difficult in our world to convince people of an objective truth or an objective moral truth than it is right now. I think that this has actually become, since I started being a part of the apologetics curriculum like 10 years ago, I think this has gotten significantly harder to convince someone of over time. Like 10 years ago, I think that this was still something that people agreed on, at least most people, and you could get them convinced by this argument. I think now we have kind of thrown objectivity out the window in a lot of things, and subjectivity has continuously become more and more popular, to just believe that you're not wrong. You're never wrong.
Right.
Everybody has, even there's something right for everybody, right? Everybody has something that's right. You know, that's like the heart of the ecumenist movement. You know, all religions have something right. You know, they all have something good. And so, yeah, I think I do still agree that this is a good argument. I think it's a argument we should have in our tool belt, but just be aware that like it's really hard now to press the idea of objectivity to people.
Yeah. There's a slightly different way you can formulate this. And the book, the If God, Why Evil? It's a pretty good book. It's very short. It's just a summary of all the like 10 different arguments for the problem of evil in dealing with it. And one of them, the argument for objective morality is basically this: if evil exists, then objective moral values exist. So when people see evil, like, hey, Epstein, that's evil. And almost everyone universally agrees that that's evil, other than, his friends who are participating. Even then, they might think it's evil, they just enjoy it. So if evil exists, then objective moral values must also exist. If objective moral values exist, then an objective standard must exist. Evil exists, therefore an objective standard must exist, and then we would ultimately ground that in Yahweh's nature. The objective moral standard cannot be changing, so you need something that's unchanging. So it's not God's actions, because those change from time to time. It is a moral standard that is unchanging, therefore it must be an immutable source, and that would be God's nature. His morality is the grounding of our morality. But you have to like, almost everyone agrees that evil exists, including atheists. If evil exists, then God has to exist. If it's just something that makes you feel icky, then there's nothing wrong with it, ultimately speaking. So if you want to say that Epstein was doing something wrong, you have to believe in a God. So if you start from evil, it's a little bit easier to get people to the end result. Because people are like, oh yeah, obviously evil. Yeah.
I think the one meme that has come out of this with the Epstein files coming out as people keep posting, oh, now I understand why God had to create hell.
Yeah.
Now I get it now. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See how, hold on. We're already on accurate prophecy. I'm telling you, Chase, your father is very, very into science.
Man, you can do so much more with the problem of evil and other things.
Which we do talk about it again in other places.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is just for the existence of God.
But so one thing that didn't get discussed because it was in a video form. So I'll give a little recap before we go into accurate prophecy. One thing that I've heard people say that is wrong, and we need to have this like I'm gonna call it a come to Jesus moment, because I've heard too many Christians use this argument, and it is an absolute non-starter. So please don't do it. Do not tell an atheist they don't have morals. Someone is not able to have a moral stance if they don't believe in God. That's not the argument. The argument is morality itself can't exist without God. That's the argument.
Real morality, objective morality. Yeah.
Objective morality cannot exist without God. Now, does that mean we're not saying that people's morality cannot be corrupted? We're not saying that people's morality can't be skewed, but the sheer idea that things can be accurately right and wrong, God has to exist. I've talked to many an atheist, just having conversation in that's exactly, yeah. You don't believe in God, you don't exist. But that I've had these conversations with people in different settings where it like breaks my heart that what Christians have said to them. And they tell me, they're like, yeah, I had a former coworker who was a Christian, and we would talk about things, and he told me like he doesn't think I'm a moral person because I don't believe in God. He's like, he tells me like I literally don't have morality. It's like, that's no. I said, I'm sorry. I know what he was likely trying to tell you, and was probably taught the wrong thing, or didn't listen properly. That is also always a possibility. But yeah, so just be mindful of what you're telling people, right? What you like, your words carry a lot, and you can actually do a lot more damage to someone by giving them a bad version of an argument, which is why I also always tell people, if you don't have an answer to a question, don't force an answer. Just say, I don't know, but I can look into it. Maybe we could come back to this. We could get coffee or something, and we could talk about it again, because I know I have met too many people who got a bad answer from a Christian, and it didn't lead them closer to God. It pushed them further away, and that is never the outcome we want. We're not trying to appease people, but we should give proper argumentation for these positions, that there cannot be an objective reality or an objective morality without God. And that yes, very true. So, do you two have anything to add to that before I move on?
No.
Okay. All right. So our third piece of evidence for the case for God. So we've had science, we've had morality, and now we are into accurate prophecy. We cannot know the future. Very simple. We can't. And so since man can't know the future, a series of accurate prophecies would be undeniable proof of God. So you two, since I have no other, I mean, I guess I can also ask the audience, everybody in the audience, put in the chat, what percentage of the Bible is prophecy?
Do you mean the prophetic books or literal God saying something?
Like verses.
No, like verses, yeah.
How many verses of the Bible are prophetic?
15 to 20.
Chase, how about you? Do you have
I mean, I already
memorized?
know. Yeah,
Okay.
I already know.
All right. Well, 15 to 20. Let's see.
60 verses.
25. 60.
Only 25 was a little too much, but okay, yeah.
0.05% of the Bible, 60 verses is prophecy. Anyways, 25% of the Bible is prophetic. So 1 in 4 verses.
True.
McCain said 60.
Yes.
DC said 40. There's a lot of history, my guys. A lot of history, a lot of Psalms, a lot of Proverbs.
Yeah.
Although the Psalms also have prophecy in it.
That is true. And I guess it does depend on what you mean. If you're talking about
what you mean by prophecy,
explicit prophecy, or like, does typology count? Does foreshadowing? Does like just like
typology
foreshadowing count?
Right.
Then technically, like the whole Bible is prophetic.
Yeah.
The whole Old Testament is prophetic of Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Is it like all the "Thus say the Lord," like the "Moyo Yahweh," or like is it like anything that could be like Genesis 16 or
right?
Yeah.
we are happy you are also getting back into this. If you haven't checked out our first one, I can't remember if you were in the chat for the first one. So if you were, then disregard what I'm saying. But if you were not, if you didn't see the first one, go back and check it out. It's pretty good. So yeah, there's about 32,000 verses in the Bible that are, just that's in the Bible in general. Sorry, my bad. 8,000 verses are prophecy. Sorry guys, I almost said that 32,000 verses for prophecy. Thousands
Actually
have already
more
been,
verses than the Quran total, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, there are more.
6,236.
There are more prophetic verses in the Bible than there are verses in the Quran.
And I'm assuming most definitely that's including like conditional prophecy and stuff too.
Likely, yeah.
In that,
I would have to,
yeah,
because most of the prophets were conditional prophecies.
Were conditional, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So thousands have already been accurately fulfilled, including many about the Savior Jesus Christ.
Sure.
I missed one. Hold on. Okay, we have a dilemma. Do we watch the video, or I think this is a pretty good video. It's very it's a lot about math and the statistical probability of fulfilling a prophecy accurately. I think it's worth watching.
Sure.
Yeah. Why not?
It's not my channel. Although I cannot hear anything.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, no. I didn't. That was an error.
Share with it. Frank Turek.
Dang.
No, that's a young man there.
No, this is somebody else. He does look like Frank Turek though, but
that's not Frank Turek. Wow.
That's not.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Interesting.
But you're right. I did not share this correctly, so we can't hear anything. So we're gonna move on. Guys, it was a great video.
Wow.
Well, you can still go back to that slide when we talk about that number.
Actually, here.
You just want to stop the share and go back?
Okay. So basically, he asked a question in the video where there was like a grain of sand that's put out into the universe, and it's a green grain of sand, and you have to go and you have to find it, but you are blindfolded and you're in a spaceship and you just go and you have to try and find this grain of sand. And essentially through the math, you would be 150 million times more likely to select the right grain of sand than for Christ to fulfill just 69 prophecies. And I think that was the bolt of it. It was pretty amazing the amount of prophecies that Jesus fulfilled in his lifetime. That we can accurately trace back. And now it's funny now, and I shouldn't say now because I know this has been something people have tried to do, but the amount of like retconning people are trying to do to say that the prophecies were not about Jesus, or that Jesus like tried to basically Jesus manufactured like I just read today in Zechariah 9. Hold on, I got a picture of it. Zechariah 10 verse 3. My anger is hot against the shepherds, and I will punish the leaders, for the Lord of hosts cares for his flock, the house of Judah, and will make them like his majestic steed in battle. From him shall come the cornerstone. The cornerstone the builders rejected, which now has or the stone the builders rejected, which has become the chief cornerstone, which is a messianic prophecy, is from the house of Judah, which is Jesus from the house of Judah. Just find that.
And Isaiah, it also says that he will be the savior and he's God.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the amount of things that Jesus could not have manufactured that he was from the tribe of Judah.
Right.
Like that's not possible.
Yeah.
Couldn't manufacture that he was born in Bethlehem. Couldn't manufacture he was born. Well, obviously, there's people who reject that he was born of a virgin. But if we're being charitable with the text, if you're an atheist, he couldn't manufacture who he was born to. Right? That's just not. I mean,
He's in
obviously,
the line of David. Yeah.
the only way you could make the argument he could manufacture all of those things if he's God.
Yeah.
If he's God.
The biggest response you're going to get is that the authors fabricated the story. So they just
Right.
found all these things in the Old Testament. And they just like whipped up the story to make it work. But the Jewish mind would not have introduced the cross as a mode of salvation.
No.
The cross is the big, and it's not just the Jews. The Greeks and the Romans wouldn't have either. No culture would have invented the cross because the cross was embarrassing for everyone. Jews would not have accepted a Messiah who was crucified because of the Old Testament, because of Deuteronomy, where it says that those who are hung on a pole are cursed. The Greeks and Romans would not have accepted a Messiah or a God that was crucified because crucifixion is so lowly. Their gods are so high and so exalted that if you have your God be crucified, that's too low of a thing to accept. So the vast majority of the people who heard about Jesus' resurrection were not scandalized by the resurrection. They were actually scandalized by his death. So nowadays we're scandalized by the resurrection because that's the miracle. They didn't care about miracles. Miracles were common. It was just believed that everyone experienced miracles. They were scandalized by the cross itself. And now we're doing the opposite now, but they would have blanket accepted the miracle of his resurrection. That was not the what kept you from coming to Christ in that culture. But because of that, no one would have invented the cross whatsoever. Jews definitely wouldn't. Greeks and Romans wouldn't. Zoroastrians wouldn't. Muslims reject it, but they came way later. Don't even know about Jesus. So you don't have any system even remotely close to the time, even like Babylonians, they wouldn't have accepted this type of, or the Egyptians, they wouldn't have created this type of suffering servant to begin with. And then you also have all the other specificities of his death, burial, and resurrection that are all prophesied in the Old Testament, that are all very specific, that all actually happened, like his bone not being broken. That is weird. And being crucified in general, weird. The atonement processes, weird. So you have typology mixed with the accurate prophecies, but you also have his birth coming in like 30 AD or before 30 AD. So the destruction of the temple was the end cap of when he was born. He was born right after, in the time period he was supposed to be, 483 years after the temple decree went out. So he was born when the Messiah was supposed to be born, according to Daniel 9, and before the destruction of the temple. And he died 40 years before the temple was destroyed, which is like Jonah.
I've heard that is a very powerful argument to use to Jews, that when asked about when did they know when the Messiah was supposed to come, and have that conversation and say, well, who matches that description?
Yeah.
And then you lead them to Jesus.
Sure. Yeah.
And I want to call an audible real quick. For fun, can someone pull up on Blue Letter Bible Isaiah 53? Can we read that? Because there's one of the biggest ones is a real pressing by Jews to say Isaiah 53 is only about Israel, and that if you read it in proper context, you would not get the idea. You would not get the idea of. Oh, my bad. We both have control now. But you wouldn't get this idea of a suffering servant being anything other than Israel. Chase, do you want to read through some of that?
What do you want me to read?
I mean, I kind of want to just read through the entire chapter, if I'm being honest, because so much of it, it is long. But
I don't care.
Or if there's like the
problem is Andrew, you have to remember that as Wesley Kerr II told us, the blue letter is the false Bible that we have been reading from, and that the only true one, we would have to get to the King James. So just with that in mind, let's progress. It says here, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows. Hello? I hate this mouse. A man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Stop.
So, can you pause real quick. Who is the we? Who is the
Israel.
we?
The audience.
Right. So Israel, the audience receiving this, is the we. So who is the one who is despised? If this is about Israel, is Israel also the despised and the rejected by men? As in they just reject themselves? Anyways, I just wanted to point that out because I think that's something like just right off the bat. How can this be specifically about Israel when they're hearing the message for themselves, and and Isaiah is using the word we as in him and all his people. Anyways, sorry.
You mean second Isaiah, which was written after everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. It was written post Babylon.
Right. This guy. Anyways, let's continue. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who will declare his generation? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgressions of my people he was stricken, and they made his grave with the wicked, but with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was any deceit found in his mouth.
Pause. I actually had this debate with someone over TikTok. I said, at what point did Israel not have deceit in its mouth? When were they not violent? Because like it's describing this like perfect person who dies, and by his death there is healing. When was that Israel? In what point in their history was this about Israel, or could it be about Israel?
Oh, it was the Holocaust.
I've
actually heard that.
Really?
Yeah. So they say that the Holocaust is the Jews being wounded, and because of that, it brought world peace, because there hasn't been a major world war since then.
Not for Israel, though. It definitely didn't bring them peace. They still be fighting it out over there.
Yeah.
I guess if you wanted to argue that it was it led to the regathering of the nation state of Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not really, I mean.
So you could say technically the land was, if you wanted to stretch what the term healed means, that it was healed because it was brought back to us.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess. All right, you can finish it out. I guess I don't even know if that was like the biggest part was, at what point can you say that Israel, as we understand them in the Old Testament, or even a regathered Israel, would be capable of knowing the history, would be capable of doing these things and achieving these things of this specific person listed in the scripture? I just don't see that. I don't think history is either.
Do you know what this says in the Aramaic?
No.
probably exactly what it says here in the English, Christopher. You.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
All right.
If you want to share my screen real quick, I'm going to show you
pull
something
down
pretty cool.
and we add new screen.
Yeah. So this is Isaiah 52:13 in Targum Jonathan. Behold, my servant will prosper. He will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Okay. Do you recognize what this word is here?
No.
Make it a little bit bigger for
No.
those at home.
I can't say I do.
All right. So, Ha Yazalak Yavdi. This is the servant here. Meshiach. My servant, the Messiah, will prosper. So, in the Aramaic, in the Targum, they actually add the word Messiah to Isaiah 52. So who is the servant according to Jews at the time of Jesus? Because Jonathan is like just before the time of Jesus. It's Messiah. Explicitly. No interpretation needed. And this actually happens a bunch of times. It happens in Isaiah 49 and in 42. Like the servant songs are identified as Messiah by the Jews in the Aramaic whenever they're translating it. And this is the version that was used in the synagogues whenever Jesus was teaching. So the fact that the suffering servant of Isaiah 53, which is continuing on this context into here, and actually the word Messiah appears here as well. I don't remember which verse it was. It was towards the middle, but there it is. We have Messiah again in here, and it doesn't fully translate to this, but basically talks about how the generation of the Messiah will see these things. So the idea of this servant being Messiah is very, very, very explicit in what the Jews would be reading at the time of Jesus. There's no real way around it. It's just, it's just there. So,
thank you. Yeah. That was awesome, actually. And so, thank you guys for providing that on my Audible. What I wanted to kind of get across is Isaiah 52 and Isaiah 53 are so difficult to get around. And those aren't the only ones. Is it Zechariah 12? They will see pierced. Yeah, pierced. They see God pierced. That, it's one of my arguments. So in Ignatius's one of his first letters, I think it was to the church in Ephesus, he opens the letter and he literally says the blood of God. And that's one of my arguments is like, they didn't think Jesus was God until Nicaea. Oh, did they not? Because in 110 AD, Ignatius was saying the blood of God. How does God bleed? And in the same way in Zechariah, they pierced God. How does that work? How do they pierce God if he is only spirit, So there are so many things that, like, if don't fall backwards on these things. If you have read the scriptures and you've found these prophecies that are fulfilled by Jesus, and people try to debate you on this and say that this was the disciples just made this stuff up, they made faulty connections, whatever it may be, don't just shy away. Like, go to the scripture and read it to them and ask them to explain how it could be something different. Because like I just showed you in Isaiah 53, anyone trying to say that it's just about Israel has to then back that up, because that is a claim. You have to back that up by saying, how is this about Israel? How could this ever possibly be about Israel? But moving forward. So some of our Bible prophecies include the rise and fall of world superpowers, rise and action of world leaders, major events in the Middle East, birth, life, death of Jesus Christ, rebirth of Israel in 1948, modern world events, and technology. And there's only one sacred text that contains highly specific and precisely fulfilled prophecies And crazy, it's actually Dianetics.
I was about to say, you have Elon subverted that list. It's wild.
He deserves it. He deserves it. That man cultivated a
Oh
lot of
my
money.
Goodness
Oh, he
gracious,
stole
man.
he stole a lot of money from people. Yeah, this is the one, guys. This has all the prophetic stuff. No, obviously not.
Got a sick cover though.
Hey, that's good. That's good marketing.
Yeah.
We have is that 3 Bibles up there?
Yes, there were 3
There's 2 Bibles
Bibles
in the Book of Mormon.
I think I thought
Wait,
there was
what was the one
one.
before that then? There was one with a fish on it.
Oh,
think
is
this
that
is
the
also-
Bible?
I have no
Yeah.
idea
Well,
if that's the Bible or not.
They were filling space.
Might be the Peshitta.
Oh,
It
I
looks
don't
like
recognize the script,
I don't
but
even
I
it
don't
almost looks like it could be Syriac.
Hmm.
It just maybe sideways. I don't know. It's a strange thing. Anyway,
at least 2 Bibles.
at least 2 Bibles.
The Bible is the only one that has ample, accurate prophecy. You can, Muslims will try to argue that there's prophecy in the Quran, but it's incredibly vague, and it's like in the last days people will not listen to their parents. It's like,
Even then, that's the Hadith. It's not even the Quran.
Yeah, I was thinking. Even as I was saying that, I was like, I think that's actually a Hadith.
Is it
The
the
only
Qur-
one.
Yeah, doesn't
So
the
they
Quran say
have
something
the
about
Byzantines and the Romans
Yeah.
are fighting.
Yeah.
That's the prophecy, but the prophecy is false because it says after 9 years, and it happened before 9 years, and it happened in like 12 years or 18 years. So the window of time the Arabic word used is anywhere between, so it's less than 10 is the idea,
Right.
but it's greater than 10. So the prophecy even that the Muslims claim actually happened in the Quran by the Arabic itself failed.
Yeah,
It's not even explicit that it's supposed to be the Romans and the Byzantines either, is it? That's just what they say it's about.
No, it probably is, but the Arabic is ambiguous who's supposed to win.
Win, that's right. Yeah.
So you could say either of them won and the prophecy would still be fulfilled,
Right.
which is kind of ironic. So the wording itself is kind of ambiguous, and then the timeline itself doesn't work whatsoever. So either way, it's not a clear, good quality prophecy, and it's false, or at least partially false.
At some point, there will be a conflict, and somebody will win.
Right. Of these 2 people.
I am a prophet.
Right. It's like looking at Russia and Ukraine back in like 2014 and being like, I think there's going to be a war there in like the next 10 years, and then calling that a prophecy.
Yeah. Orthodox Muslim in his debate with IP included that prophecy and mentioned that it was like, he even said that the conflict would happen between 4 to 12 years. How could the prophet have known this? It's like that's
like
so
looking
incredibly
at brewing tides. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so incredibly
Paying attention.
vague. Just say probably between, it's like me saying, man, my roof is a little like it's leaking every now and then, and probably between like now and maybe like 2 years from now, I'm really going to need to think about getting this thing replaced. And then I do it. It's like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. How could he
like
have known?
Imagine the Bible has a prophecy that's 483 years out, and it's accurate. The Quran has one that's like a decade out, and it's inaccurate.
Yeah.
Wild difference there.
Very different.
You also don't understand, because according to Hadith, Muhammad was like a Nostradamus, bro. He was just out there. He was like, yo, you see this little kid? He's gonna see the end times. And then he did.
I read that one.
Yeah. Then the Duas tribe is gonna have the women shake their booties around their idol.
Yes. Yeah.
And Muslims killed the
That
Duas
was-
tribe and destroyed the idol.
Dude, no, that was a prophecy of which one was it?
14.
Was it Lady Gaga? Which one actually went there?
Not Cardi B. Was it Cardi B?
It was one of them. They actually went there and performed.
Megan Thee Stallion, maybe? It was one of those type rappresses.
Yeah.
What's a female
We-
rapper? Is
we-
there a name for it, or just rapper?
I think
I
it's just-
reject.
it's
I
like
reject
rap.
that.
Rappers?
That's rap.
There's a bunch of female rapesses going to Saudi Arabia, twerking on beaches.
I reject that is rap.
Moving forward, it's see also though, guys, it was a conditional prophecy. Okay, it was conditional that it would happen, but then they destroyed it all, so it couldn't.
Right,
happen.
right,
Okay,
yeah.
come
And there was
on.
also supposed to be like 10 women for every one man, and now there's
Oh,
more
yeah.
men than women alive at the moment. And yeah, it's not as funny as like Jews living on the moon. That one's really funny.
You guys are you're dunking on the wrong thing. All right, let's keep moving. Keep moving. All right. If any of the Bible's highly specific prophecies are false, then the Bible is not God's word. True or false? What do you think?
Depends on if it's conditional or not.
Obviously, if it's conditional, but if it's an unconditional prophecy and God gets something
Right,
wrong,
then it's
then
not true.
God.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
Or at least that prophet was speaking a false word.
Right.
But that wouldn't be in the Bible to begin with if it was.
Every single prophecy that has been fulfilled perfectly, not even one has failed. Not even one. Except that, obviously, we've already said this, the conditional ones.
But we wouldn't say that we would reject that those are wrong, but that
conditionally
that condition was not met.
Yeah.
But the fall of Tyre didn't get fulfilled. What do you say about that?
What?
The fall of Tyre in Ezekiel? The siege of Tyre by Nebuchadnezzar. Or Tyre, sorry. Pronounce it weird.
I actually don't know.
Siege
I
of
was
Tyre.
gonna
You guys don't know about that one.
Yeah, please.
You're just
enlighten me.
Man,
you're toppling our worldview right now. We're just gonna have to rewrite everything.
Right. So in Ezekiel 37.
Not even one. Scratch that out. Okay, one.
Okay, one.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me find the verse. So, siege of Ezekiel 26, off by 10. Just casually. I can share this real quick. It's actually
already
really
shared.
cool. Really cool thing. So, now it happened in the 11th year in the first month that the word of Yahweh came to me saying, Son of man, I'm still in the Aramaic, by the way. I'll go to the Hebrew. People can follow along at home. Son of man, because Tyre has said concerning Jerusalem, aha, the gateway of the people is broken, as open to me, I shall be filled now that she is laid waste. Therefore say, thus says Lord Yahweh, behold, I'm against you, O Tyre, and I will bring you up many nations against you as the sea brings up its waves. They will make the walls of Tyre a ruin and pull down her towers, and I will scrape her dust from her and make her a bare rock. She will be a place for the spreading of nets in the midst of the sea, for I have spoken, declares the Lord Yahweh, and she will become a plunder for the nations. Also her daughters who are on the mainland will be killed by the sword, and they will know that I am Yahweh. For thus says Lord Yahweh, behold, I will bring up upon Tyre from the north Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, king of kings, with horses, chariots, horsemen, and assembly, a great number of people. He will kill your daughters on the mainland with the sword, and he will make siege walls against you, cast up a ramp against you, and raise up a large shield against you. The blow of his battering rams will be directed against your walls, and with his swords he will tear down your towers. Because of the abundance of his horses, the fine dust raised by them will cover you, and your walls will shake at the noise of horsemen and wagons, chariots, when he enters your gates, as men enter a city that is breached. With the hooves of his horses, he will trample all your streets. He will kill your people with the sword, and your strong pillars will come down to the ground. Also, they will make a spoil of your wealth and a plunder of your merchandise, and pull down your walls and tear down your desirable houses, and throw your stones and your timbers and your debris into the water. So I will cause the tumult of your songs to cease, and the sound of your harps will be heard no more. I will make you a bare rock. You will be a place for spreading of fish nets. You will be built on no more, for I, Yahweh, have spoken, declares Lord Yahweh. Thus Lord Yahweh says to Tyre, shall not the coastland shake at the sound of your downfall, when the wounded groan, when the killing occurs in your midst? Then all the princes of the sea will go down from their thrones, remove their robes, and strip off their embroidered garments. They will clothe themselves with trembling. They will sit on the ground, tremble every moment, and be appalled at you. So Tyre is interesting because it was one of the most fortified nations of all time, relatively speaking. Like it's basically the America of back then. It was wealthy, important, very, very well protected, and it had water all around it, so no one could naturally attack it. No one had the technology to go against it in that day because they had a very well-trained navy. Now, back in that day, it was like literally you just had two boats that would ram each other. It wasn't like cannons or anything fancy. But they had a well-trained navy that could outmaneuver all the other boats that were trying to attack them and ram them and sink the ships. So Tyre was basically impenetrable. And they had two Tyres. There's a tale of two cities. There's the mainland Tyre, which is much smaller. And then there is the coastal Tyre, which is just off the coast, about a kilometer away from the city. And it has two harbors. That coastal city is the main city. It's where all the merchandise was sold at. It's where all their wealth was. That's what Tyre proper was. Nebuchadnezzar did come against them. And I think it was like 200. What was it? I have it. I have the document. I think it's like 276, or that might be Alexander. Isaiah notes. So this siege did happen in the time of Nebuchadnezzar. The problem is Nebuchadnezzar, he did it in 586 BC. I was off by 200 years. Nebuchadnezzar did destroy it. He did pull down her towers. He did destroy all the women on the mainland, as it was said. It was done by King Nebuchadnezzar. So like, oh, fulfill prophecy. The problem is the rest of it didn't happen by him. So it was not a bare rock. They were still doing merchandise. They were still doing all these things. So they're like, oh, this is obviously a false prophecy. This is what skeptics bring up all the time as a form of false prophecy in the Bible. So if you're going to be talking to skeptics and those are informed, you should know how to speak against this as a false prophecy. Now notice, Yahweh said that he would bring many nations against Tyre. And it just so happens to be 200 years later, Alexander the Great heard about this wonderful statue to Heracles, which is who he thought he was a descendant of. Most people in America know him as Hercules because of the Disney movies. But in Greek, he is Heracles. Heracles, the son of Hera, he would be, well, actually, I don't think he's literally the son of Hera, but I think that's what Heracles means. He's the son of Zeus and a woman. Hera is the wife of Zeus. Anyway, so we have Heracles being the one with the lion's mane. And if you ever look at any of the Alexander the Great statues, he has the Nemean lion on him because he thought he was a reincarnation of a god, especially because he never lost a battle. So he has like a rightful reason to think he's a reincarnation of a god. You know, man conquered most of the world by the age of 30. It's wild. Anyway, so we have these bare rock and spreading of fishnets and plundering of the merchandise. Well, Nebuchadnezzar didn't plunder Tyre at all. And he also didn't throw the timbers or the stones into the water. This is the most important thing here for the actual fulfilled side of it. Alexander the Great wanted to worship at this statue. Tyre thought, no, that man's going to want to conquer us because he's conquered everyone else. So no, I politely decline your coming to my island. And he didn't have that. And then they killed his delegate. He really didn't have that. Got so butthurt that he then decided to besiege it for like a decade. And during that time, the mainland city was still in ruins. They never rebuilt it. Alexander the Great couldn't breach the city. He tried multiple times. He couldn't get into the harbor because the navy was too good. So what this mad lad did was he picked up all of the debris of the city and threw it into the sea to build a bridge through the water. He built a kilometer-long mole, which is a land bridge, into the sea using the stones and timbers of mainland Tyre. And then he tore apart the city down to nothing. He actually just stripped it. He didn't conquer it. He razed it to the ground, and for generations, it was a bare rock that was only used by fishermen to spread out nets. And every time someone has rebuilt the city, some other community went out and conquered them and destroyed them. So
Wow.
the many nations, Islam has conquered it at least 5 times. Muslims have destroyed the city 5 times. There's currently 100,000 people living near there. But it's still not Tyre. So like, oh, well, now there's a city in Lebanon called Tyre. This all false prophecy. Yahweh said that it would never be rebuilt. Well, Tyre proper, the kingdom, this powerhouse never did come back. They partially survive Nebuchadnezzar. They did not survive Alexander the Great. The kingdom fell with Alexander and never regained its glory, never regained its merchandise, never regained its power. So it's a fulfilled prophecy, but because it was fulfilled in piecemeal, which is actually more impressive, in my opinion, because it was fulfilled in piecemeal, and Nebuchadnezzar didn't get that exact thing, they're like, oh, that's a false prophecy. And then it also says, because Nebuchadnezzar couldn't gain the wealth of Tyre, he then was to plunder the Egyptians, which I would say did happen. Many skeptics would say Egypt was never plundered by Nebuchadnezzar after the prophecy, even though he definitely was before the prophecy. It's just, did he replunder them after the fact? So this is one that they will definitely bring up if they've studied any of the atheist websites. But yeah, the fact that God literally said he's going to throw your stones in wood into the sea when there's like literally no reason to do that, and then someone got butthurt and did it, not just did it, but did a kilometer, and this was like a deep trench. So he filled like thousands of tons of stone and brick into the sea over the course of years building this mole.
Wow. That's actually, thank you. I'm sure that at some point in my life, this is going to end up coming up. And I did need to know that, because if somebody just straight up told me that and I looked into it, I probably would have been like, now what? But no, thank you. That is very helpful, actually.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as he was predetermined to do.
Thank you, John Calvin. Thank you, Augustine. Somebody said this. You guys are amusing. I like how chill this is. It's also solid. Thank you so much. I didn't acknowledge that when it came into the chat, so I just wanted to say thank you. All right.
Yes. Oh,
yeah, I don't know how to say your name, so I'm so sorry. But thank you. All right. Moving forward. All right. So our next. Oh, it would be helpful if I put the PowerPoint back on the. Yeah. The resurrection
decrease and the PowerPoint must increase.
Sahi.
Not I, but Christ.
But the PowerPoint.
In the PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint.
Yeah. So the resurrection is excellent evidence for God. So these first two, you could argue, are just about a divine creator, right? You could argue the first two of smart, and maybe even T a little bit, are just more of like, again, a general sense that there is a creator, which is kind of the beauty of smart, is that as you work down the list, you go from science would get you to the point of saying there has to be some type of intelligent designer. Morality would say that designer has conscious thought and is organizing things for a reason. Because, I mean, you could be a deist and believe in the science stuff, right? You could do the watchmaker theory. But once you add in the morality, you get to the point of saying, okay, well, no, he does care about us and he is watching us because he set specific laws in place for a reason, and there is justice and there is punishment. But then once you get to accurate prophecy, you work towards, okay, well, how do we know this is the Christian God? And now that we have established the Christian God, okay, well, let's get into the resurrection. Our favorite. What a based Bart Ehrman. We can say with complete certainty that some of his disciples insisted that Jesus soon appeared to them, convincing them that he had been raised from the dead. Don't let the Muslims see this, because they love quoting Bart Ehrman, except for the parts that Bart Ehrman doesn't agree with them.
So it's like
Mhm.
Muhammad, Bart Ehrman, Allah. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like,
It may be taken as historically certain that Peter and the disciples had experiences after Jesus' death in which Jesus appeared to them as the risen Christ. Another atheist professor, Gerd Ludemann. And what is probably the best evidence for the resurrection of Jesus? Do they have any ideas of what's the best evidence for the resurrection? Chase,
Mm, I mean,
Chase, you can
I
only
would
give
say
wrong answers.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's probably, um,
All
Hadith
right, Chris.
science.
Okay.
persecution of the disciples to death.
That is a good one.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Good job. You got it. The
That
martyrdom of the
is
apostles.
logically the best evidence. Yes.
It is. It's
You
always
can
know,
also
fun
see the
Chris.
asking
Shroud
this
of
question.
Turin. So the Shroud of Turin is pretty incredible, but there's debate on that one.
See,
But, you know,
Chris,
the martyrdom of the apostles is by far the best evidence we have.
the best evidence is actually that there's an empty tomb. Okay, because we know for certain which one was Jesus put in, and we know that, yeah. So that's actually the best
That's true.
evidence.
Even though,
I mean, it is good evidence actually. Yeah.
There is good evidence. Yeah, either place. There's no body found at either grave.
right. Yeah. If you're,
Uh,
because there's the, are you talking about the Church of the Holy Sepulchre
and the garden tomb.
and
Yeah.
the Garden Tomb? And
Mhm.
either way, yes, there is no body. So you can, either way.
But even if we didn't have the tomb, we know that the Jews knew it was empty
Yeah.
because the
right.
Romans say it was. Like we have extra biblical writings that says that there was an empty tomb, and that's the Jewish defense, both in the Talmud and in the actual defense and like what they give. So if in Christianity started in Jerusalem, so the fact that the tomb is empty and Christianity started there is good evidence that the tomb actually was empty. Because otherwise, you just be like, oh well, they're claiming he's
see.
resurrected. Let's just go check. It's not like it started in Antioch where you can't check easy. You have to cross the ocean and it's like months. No, it's like, oh, I can just like take a stroll down the road and like check whether or not the Christians are saying something that's true. And yet it still started there and stayed there for decades before Jerusalem was destroyed.
Right.
So yes, the martyrdom of the apostles, we would argue, is probably the best evidence of the resurrection of Jesus. And now, why is this? I'm sure we're gonna, I don't want to jump the gun. I'm going to do it anyways. But basically, because the disciples, if you know the history, had zero reason to go to their deaths with a lie they invented. So they would be the ones who established this lie if it was a lie, because they would have been the ones who stole the body. And even if you argued maybe they didn't steal the body, even though I don't know who else would have had any reason to do so, the apostles, if they actually did it, and they had zero fame out of this, they got no notoriety. What ensued was the most horrendous stretch of persecution that Christianity has ever gone through. So what did they actually get out of this? Nothing. They just got death. The only one who lived was John. And in some ways, his persecution was he was the last one. He lived with the weight of knowing all of his friends were brutally murdered, and he just got to live through all of it. And he also, some of the stories about John the later in life are pretty sick. But so yeah, no one dies for a lie that they invented. Okay. Again, you could, even if you wanted to realistically say one person could die for a lie they invented, I could grant you one person. If they were like delusional, if they lied and they were like being tortured and they just, for whatever reason, didn't want to give it up, whatever, sure. 12 people.
Yeah. Stephen too,
conspired. You've got Stephen.
You have many more than that.
Right. You had the wider group of disciples as well. But so if we're just going to say 12, for sake of the argument, conspired this idea that Jesus rose from the dead, none of them would snitch?
What we can say at the very most is that none of them recanted. As to how many of them were legitimately martyred, there's only a few that we know of definitively.
Right.
True. But again,
but none of them recanted. So
right, no one recanted, and the idea that none of them in the face of martyrdom would have snitched and just said, "Hey, we made it up." You know, it's already incredible that none of them did that just to get out of it in general, even if whether it's made up or not, that none of them tried to get out of it by recanting. They all straight up went to their deaths. Well, again, the ones we know of went to their deaths believing that Jesus had risen from the dead and spoke to them, and they saw him in the flesh. If Christianity was a lie, then the apostles invented it, and most of them died for their faith. Wait a minute. What about the 19 Muslim hijackers on September 11th? Didn't they die for their faith? Does that prove that Islam is true? No, because it's different. The Muslim hijackers didn't invent Islam. There is
They
a
don't know
difference.
it's true or not.
Right. There is a difference being a member of, okay, so like there's a difference between being the member of a group versus the inventor of the group. So if you are coming into something way later down the line, as this would have been, what, 1400 years after the foundations of Islam, if for 1400 years you have this religion has existed and you believe it's true because of whatever reason, being born into it or whatever, then a radical comes along who convinces you to do these radical acts to receive paradise. That is not the same thing as being someone who invented a religion and then went in to go die for it, right? That's very different. Why
There's a
actually
saying that
sorry, go ahead.
There's a saying that liars make very bad martyrs because you wouldn't be willing to die for a lie. You wouldn't be willing. It's not just dying too. Like some of them were like flayed, like boiled and beaten to death and crucified. Crucifixion and being flayed are about the most painful things you can experience. You wouldn't be willing to just undergo torture because it wasn't just death; it was torture for a lie you know to be false.
Right. And nobody would have thought it was weird, even if something that you believe is true, you would deny it just to get out of that, but they didn't. Like, because, it would like, they didn't deny it even to get out of the torture. Like, even let's all assume that this is true. There are probably very well-meaning Christians who, at the end of the day, if faced with it, would deny it just to get out of the punishment. And obviously, it's debatable whether or not the person's a Christian, but like that's a thing that can happen. Whereas these people didn't even do that. So,
yeah.
And also, sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say that there is good evidence that Muhammad did actively use his religion to get out of doing things he didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he would just straight up deny it. He'd be like, "What, those verses about worshiping or about praying to those three other gods? Nah, I'm sorry, that was Satan. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Don't harm me."
So it's very different circumstances. So yeah, because the 9/11 hijackers died for what they only believed to be true, but the apostles of Jesus would have died for a lie that they invented. If the apostles lied, what was their motive? What did they get out of it? What they got out of it was misunderstanding, rejection, persecution, torture, and martyrdom. But so here's a list of some of the evidences. So we've got the lives and deaths of the apostles, the empty tomb, reports about his stolen body, testimony of the women, because the fact that the first reporters of the risen Christ were women, along with what Chris had mentioned earlier about the method of death for our Messiah being a cross, these are things that are essentially, in that culture was embarrassing. The testimony of women was not viewed in the same way as the testimony of a man. And so why would you include the testimony of women if you were trying to convince people? If it would make a lot more sense.
Puppy dog.
It would make a lot more sense for them to just straight up lie and replace the women with men. But instead, they were truthful and said what actually happened. Then we've got the eyewitness reports. So you've got Josephus, Tacitus, Pliny. Was that the other one?
Pliny the younger, right?
Yeah, you've got three secular eyewitness reports of the immediate following what happened literally right after the crucifixion and resurrection.
Yeah.
That includes
Bar Sapien. We have like 12 or so actually. So Pliny the younger, Phlegon, Bar Sapien, Tacitus, Thales, Saturnius, Celsius, Josephus, Lucian.
Even the temperatures observed it.
Yeah, Justin Martyr, Polycarp,
or the drink.
Ignatius.
The drink, yeah.
So you have a bunch, both Christian, Roman, Greek, Jew, that all are admitting this exact thing happened.
Well, it's because they were all deceived.
Right.
Yeah. But
it was only made to appear so.
It was made to appear that they saw. It's the evidence. You see.
It's so funny how Muslims will use that, though. They'll be like, well, of course they would report it. It would look like it to them. It's like
they were deceived. Secular, also, yeah. So the secular historical accounts goes with the eyewitnesses also would be, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. As I guess technically Luke is, compiling eyewitness reports for his gospel. So I would still argue he is a eyewitness through other people.
Yeah, second witness.
Yeah, and then Mark would be from Peter, but at least traditionally viewed that he would be from Peter. But how is this evidence for?
That's what it was.
Yeah,
he wrote Peter.
Because an actual resurrection is a miraculous supernatural event requiring the existence of a transcendent God who can and does intervene in the natural world. This would be, hold on. We are left with the conclusion that the empty tomb and appearances of the living Jesus forms a set of circumstances which is itself both necessary and sufficient for the rise of early Christian belief. Without these, we cannot explain why this belief came into existence and took the shape it did. With them, we can explain it exactly and precisely. Good old NT Wright. All right.
We do not subscribe to everything NT says.
Yeah, he's written a lot of stuff. So yes, the resurrection is, essentially the second. If we count the greatest miracle being creation itself, the resurrection is, and that's what I've heard some people say. If you can get to the point of believing God created the universe, then you can believe that God also raised from the dead. That's
what Joe Rogan said.
Yeah, it's at that point you can believe that. But so we will end with the truth is self-evident. So self-evident, that which is obvious, requiring no further proof or additional reasoning. Thomas Jefferson once said, I'm quoting, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. The fact that over 90% of Americans, which again, I don't know if this is still totally accurate, but 90% of Americans say that God's existence is self-evident, is almost evidence in and of itself. Obviously, this is not specifically. Oh, what's up, Corey?
What's up, Corey, bro?
So
good to see you.
You're right. We are not sponsored by the Joe Rogan Experience, but hey, Joe. Pass some bands, brother.
Spread the wealth, bro.
Hey, I saw that Spotify contract. You go ahead.
I didn't realize he'd got a Spotify contract.
Oh
That was
yeah, a
years
couple
ago.
years ago. But it was for easily the most money a podcaster had ever made. It's pretty insane, at least
Yeah,
up
other than
front.
the Haktua girl. Yeah.
Oof.
Which was that's
She made more?
stupid, so stupid.
How much did she make? She
A
made a
meme,
decent,
a
stupid amount.
meme got some company out there to
The-
drop a bag.
The Talk to a podcast. She's apparently now like going to jail or something, right?
Well, yeah, because she pulled the rug out on people on a crypto.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
currency.
that's-
crypto pull.
Yeah, like she absolutely just scammed people.
Yeah, she made millions.
That's
Crazy.
insane.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Um,
Who wants to listen to you?
but yeah,
It's like Michelle Obama's podcast to me. Like who? Anyways,
Yeah.
okay, but I would at least argue more people have a reason to listen to Michelle Obama than some internet girl who got famous off of a sexual innuendo. Like
It's
it is the craziest thing that she got as big
I
as
don't
she
know.
did.
An innuendo.
We're not trying
That's
to.
probably
We
pretty
are not
explicit.
trying to be haters right now, but
Right.
This is not the point of the podcast. But I'm just saying, it is absolutely evident of the state of the world right now that somebody got that famous off of a joke like that and got millions of dollars out of it. Sold merch. Oh my gosh.
That wasn't even good.
So
where's our merch?
before
what are we doing? Anyways.
No.
Sell a little plushy line for myself. So before we get to the T for the R, I do want to point out one thing. That's actually the minimal facts argument for the resurrection. You can also do the maximal argument, which has another like 20 to 30 points in it. So Gary Habermas wrote a book on the resurrection, which is the evidences of. Then it's actually like a 3-volume set, if I remember correctly. I have the evidences when I don't have the other two. So you have that. Then there's a couple other Christian apologists. His name is escaping me right now, but there's one guy who's doing an excellent job. I don't think that's the one I'm referring to, but he does do it. Yeah. If you go through the maximal argument for the resurrection, it will take a couple hours to go through it. But we have an insane amount of evidence for the resurrection. It's significantly better than just those 6 points. But those 6 points by themselves should be good enough to get you into the resurrection. But we have like the eyewitnesses that are claiming that like the sky turned dark and the earthquake happened and all of these other events that are happening. So a lot of the miraculous events that were happening that day too are supported by other historians. So it's not just the Bible that is doing all these other miraculous accounts and everything else. It is many different historians from Africa, from Greece, from Rome, from Asia Minor. We have historians all over the place, and from Jerusalem, all over the place, supporting the Bible, supporting the resurrection. So it's significantly better than what most people even realize. But you can get the full gospel from just the testimonies of people that were hostile to Christianity.
Which is amazing. That in itself is beautiful, that the enemies of the faith can give you the perfect gospel,
right?
Without you don't even have to open the Bible to get there. It's wonderful. All right, continuing. So, got the logic of God is self-evidence. The universe is a series of effects, and every effect has a cause, and an infinite series of past events is logically impossible. Therefore, there must be a first cause. So, yeah, the first cause advocates, you got Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas. They one called it the prime mover. So the initial cause that set the universe into motion, and then you've got the uncaused cause with Aquinas. But yeah, I mean, that's just logically speaking, there had to be something that started everything. Usually the only time I hear somebody argue against this is when they're not like that knowledgeable in this topic. They'll believe that in the beginning, and then when you actually like discuss this, they would typically concede that something had to start everything. I've yet to meet someone.
Thomas for you, so you're welcome.
Yeah, this is for McCain. But yeah, this is that I've yet to meet someone, like I said, I've met someone who is consistent in their determinism and naturalism, but I've not yet met someone who is consistent when it comes to the idea that the universe is eternal.
Well, Andrew, you can't be.
Can't be consistent or can't be eternal. What?
Either one.
Oh,
True.
okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And we went over the infinite regress a bit last week too.
yeah, we did. So we do not have to be taught how to identify intelligently designed effects. We have the built-in ability to understand the difference between natural causes and intelligent causes. People use their reason and rationality when looking at the universe, the world, and the variety and complexity of life. We know innately that an incredibly powerful creator must be responsible for all of physical reality. It is self-evident. When you think of like the processes of like plants, right? The idea that plants would develop like photosynthesis and would develop all of their processes for how they would consistently reproduce and spread, and just the idea of like pure adaptation over time doesn't, even if I could grant you that argument, would not explain how the actual process came into existence and how technical it is and how perfect it is. And it's the same way, like the brain, the human eye, things that almost make almost no sense to come into reality naturally. These things that would take millions upon millions upon millions to billions of years to possibly develop properly. And we have no actual evidence that that's actually possible. So that's why the timeline just keeps getting longer and longer for how long things have actually existed.
I was going to say, Andrew, it's not possible given any amount of time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
You just gotta keep pushing back and keep hoping.
It's funny because, well, whether old versus new Earth, whatever, but like that's one of the reasons why a lot of people believe in old Earth is because they say, well, none of these things could have happened naturally unless it was this old. And you're like, that's the argument, though, right?
Yeah,
right.
Maybe the most obvious answer, the one you're avoiding. Werner von Braun, the leading rocket scientist of the 20th century, was asked, "Can you give me any evidence for the existence of God? Must we really light a candle to see the sun?" So obviously, there's so much evidence, right? That's right. That's the sun. If you missed it, that's the sun. Anything he could give you, that's the candle. Yeah, there it is. Overwhelming, right? Just as visible trees reveal invisible wind, and falling apples reveal invisible gravity. No, the Earth's flat and it's moving upward at a rate of.
It's just buoyancy, Andrew. It's not gravity. The buoyancy argument kills me.
I forget what is the argument about, like the Earth is just perpetually moving upwards at a specific rate that allows things to drop. That's a good one.
That would have to be a flat Earth. Is that actually one of the flat Earth views?
Yeah, I watched a whole video about someone explaining the math about how a flat Earth, to produce something that would resemble what we now believe is gravity, and they did the whole thing about like it has to be moving at this speed at this. It was so funny.
The problem is that I would have to be constantly accelerating, not just moving at a certain speed, because there's no force to make things, like there's no resistance in space.
Right.
So it would have to constantly be accelerating.
It's also the idea of like, how do we just keep going up forever? So what are we in? The idea of like there's nothing in front, like because they already are space deniers as it is. So like they don't really believe in traditional space. So then they have to have a different argument for how we are constantly moving up, but where? Anyways, keep moving. Visible nature clearly reveals an invisible supernatural creator. For since the creation of the universe, God's invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and authority, so that they are without excuse. Romans 1:20.
Hmm.
So, for since the creation of the universe, this is the visible effect, his invisible attributes are clearly seen. This is the invisible cause. So now we just got some review. So, what is the case for God? We've got, again, science, morality, accurate prophecies. So next time, part 2 of this, and this is kind of how our flow will be, is so we did our first one, which is the case for God. So our next one's going to be the challenges against God. So we will go over the skeptical perspective and what they say, and then answer the skeptics. So that will be next week. We'll start that. It will also probably be 2 parts, most likely. But yeah, that is everything. So thank you guys for watching. Is there any closing thoughts that we have as a group?
You want to go through a cool thing in the Bible real quick?
Sure. We finished like 30 minutes earlier than I thought we would. So you, whatever you got, man, you just pull it up.
Okay. You want to pull me up on screen real quick?
Well, I did try, but it's not. Chase, you got it?
That's because you're on the wrong.
Oh, duh. There we go.
Bruh.
There we go.
Okay.
My bad. I just reacted. All right.
So it says, but he was pierced through for our transgressions. This word pierced, the machala, or halal, that word pierced is used only like 4 times in the Bible, 5 times in the Bible for specifically piercing. So Jesus was pierced for our transgressions. And one of the other ones is like Job 26. And by his breath the heavens were made beautiful. His hand has pierced the fleeing serpent. So the same pierced word used, and this is used only a handful of times. This is not the default way to say pierced. So one of the times that it's used for piercing is Jesus on the cross. It's used twice in Isaiah. And we also have Jesus then piercing the fleeing serpent and crushing him. So this is like going through all of the wonderful attributes of God, that he stretches out the heavens and hangs the earth on nothing, which is, a scientific miracle. How in the world could he know that at the time? But towards the end of his scientific miracles is he pierces the fleeing serpent. So even though Jesus is pierced onto the cross and takes on our sin onto himself, he also, part of the typology of Christ is John 3:13 and onward. So just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so the Son of Man must be lifted up, so that whoever believes in him will have eternal life. So the bronze serpent there is the Son to be pierced, and anyone who looks at the serpent, they would live. The poison, what's killing them, would leave them, and they would come out clean on the other side. And we have in Job that Jesus, or God, pierces the fleeing serpent. And you could say, oh, well, that's the devil, or you could say that's the Son as the bronze serpent taking on our sin. But either way, that word is used, and it's pretty cool, pretty based. Just thought I would share that from earlier, but didn't find a right time, so throwing that in there. Anyway, sorry, off tangent.
Was that what the second verse you did? Was that in Job?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see because it was really blurry at the top, but
yeah, Job 26.
That's pretty crazy, because as far as I'm aware, Job is our oldest. That's the oldest manuscript we have in the Old Testament?
It's the oldest content, not the oldest manuscript.
Okay.
So it was likely the original author wrote it before the Torah. Or
right.
The author may have written it after the Torah, but the events themselves are pre-Sinai.
Which is insane to think about. That this is like, when you, like you said, scientific miracle to say that he hangs the earth on nothing is absolutely crazy to think about when that was written.
Yep. We also have God walking on water in this book. That's pretty cool. So God alone walks the water.
The only problem,
you want to read that? I'm pretty sure it's Job 8.
The only problem is that the accurate translation of that is that it says, "And his hand like a lion, the fleeing serpent." Unfortunately, so you've gotten that one wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I've
actually
had
Psalm
someone use
22
that argument. Somebody used that
as off
argument
that one.
on me.
So he alone stretches out the heavens and tramples down the waves of the sea. This word here literally means to walk. It's from derek, which means like the way or to like travel on a road. So it's duruch, it is to walk on the waves of the sea.
Oh, that's so good.
So we
Dude,
have
okay.
God alone walks on the sea, and then God alone walked on the sea.
Ooh, that's so good. I'm going to use
Yeah.
that. I'm going to use that because hold on. So the reason
That's pretty cool.
one of my favorite things to point out to people is how the idea of the tahum, the deep, and
Mhm.
that how it was like, the idea of the earth when it was created being that just all sea liquid chaos, and that God tamed it and controlled it, and that you've got the imagery of Jesus walking on the water for a group of people that were not seafaring people because of this mythology of the Tahum, and that he is showing them that he is the conqueror, the controller. He walks over the chaos. But that's even better. Like adding that into the mix too, the actual verse in the Old Testament. I did not know about that. So I will add that to my, when I tell people, I'll show them that verse and say like this is literally him, witnessing to them what they likely know from Job, that only God could do this. Only God could walk on the waves.
Mhm.
That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Have you entered the springs of the sea or walked in the recesses of the deep?
Yeah.
So you have that. You also have in Psalm. So your Psalm 77. Your way was in the sea, your paths in the mighty waters. This is again your way. This is dech. So it's the same route as to walk on earlier. Your path, your way. So this is actually one of the words that the Jews bring up all the time in the Talmud of the way. You have to be on the way to God, which is where Islam gets it from. But you can also use the way to talk about your feet, your movement. So he has a way on the seas. He has a path on the seas, into truth. But like God is the one who walks on it. He do a lot of really cool. And then also, whenever he did this, the disciples immediately after bow down and worshipped him.
Right.
Why? If this was just a miracle and it's just casual and it wasn't a deity event at all, why did they worship him afterwards? It's because he's doing something the Old Testament says explicitly only God does this, and then he does it to them.
Yeah, because you have Moses going through the water, Joshua going through the water, but the Lord goes on the water.
Yeah, and he allowed Peter to.
They both walked on dry ground.
Yeah,
and
there's lots of really cool stuff in the Bible, man.
Also in the deep, you get the cool story. You get a cool story of the deep of God fighting a sea monster, because only he can slay the sea monster, right?
Yep.
Isn't there's a specific verse of God using a sword to kill a monster, right? What am I thinking of? Is that in Job also, or in?
So he uses the fish hook with the Leviathan, but
yeah. So can you draw Leviathan with the fish hook? Can you press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in its nose or pierce his jaw with the hook? Indicating that he can. Yeah.
Yeah. That's hey, that's my God. All right.
Place your hand on it, and then you will remember the battle and you won't do it again. It's such a based way to talk about something, man. You fight this thing, you're gonna remember it. Yeah, no, God is so cool.
Some of the things in the Old Testament are just I used to be a like major. I will say this now. I was like Andy Stanley level of like, we don't need the Old Testament and we should just get rid of it.
Stupid. Yeah.
And I was also very young. I was like 19 at the time, I think, and I was arguing that we didn't need the Old Testament. And then I had some very good people in my life tell me you should read it and then come back to us first. Because I'd read the New Testament like twice. I was probably older than 19. I was probably like 20 or 21. And so I did. I read the whole Old Testament outside of some of the minor prophets. And I came back to them and said, I was so wrong. I was like, so many things as I was reading made way more sense from the New Testament after I read the Old Testament.
Right.
And then I obviously made the logical connection that all the writers of the New Testament didn't have a New Testament. It's like they came to all these conclusions with just the Old Testament.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The Old Testament is super, super base, man.
I was gonna say maybe the argument should be you could actually get a pretty good understanding of the gospel from just reading the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Everything you need, you can find in the Old Testament. The New Testament is just a commentary on the Old Testament.
It's making it more explicit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, in the other stream, there's a lot of things like people will claim that the gospel that how to get to heaven was very inexplicit in the Old Testament. The problem is that the Lord used terms to communicate with those people that's different than how he used it to communicate with the people in like the New Testament, the believers. And so like they understood it just fine. Just because it's maybe a little vague to us doesn't mean that the Lord didn't know what he was doing. And there are going to be plenty of Old Testament saints celebrating with us where we go whenever we die. So that'll be proof enough of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, obviously I don't want to draw out anything that we don't have to, but we do have one of our highest amount of people watching right now. So I do want to ask if anybody in the chat watching has any questions before we were to sign off. Drop them in the chat now. I can also, if anybody wants to come up, I can drop the referral link and you can come into the stream and talk to us and we can have a conversation. Just want to put that out there as something. If you guys have an apologetics question or maybe a scripture question, we can do the best we can do to answer that. That is what we are here for. But besides that, thank you guys again. This was good, and I'm so happy we're doing this. We're almost at the 1 year mark of having our channel, and I'm just super happy that we are now finally doing these apologetic streams, because we were going to record ourselves in front of a screen presenting the curriculum. But did we have StreamYard at that point?
No.
Okay. So yeah, we didn't know how we were going to do live streams yet. So this was so now that we have it.
23rd of February 2025. Wow. I didn't even realize that.
Wait. Was that our first video? Was the 23rd of February?
No, it says joined 23rd of February 25. So I'm assuming that would have been like when we made our first video.
No, it's whenever we made the account.
Or made the account.
Okay. So I think
the first video, hang on,
was in March, I think.
Your episode 0 is in 10 months ago.
Yeah, okay. 10 months ago.
So yeah, we had the channel for a little bit, but then so we're close. We're close to our 1 year. So Corey asked, I want personal apologetic evangelism elevator pitches. Okay.
First of all, leave that up there. Look at that man, Corey. I mean, what a Chad. Whew. That's a man right there. Anyways.
I'm not going to subject Corey to that. But so elevator pitches for apologetics. I mean, you could use SMART. Because I think SMART is pretty succinct that you could work your way down.
But it's not like an elevator pitch, in my opinion. I wouldn't use the acronym in an elevator. If you're like a 70-year-old, here's what you do. You go up to him and be like, do you know you're going to hell? No, I'm just kidding.
That's what they do at public fairs.
Old people.
That's the Ray Comfort approach.
Yeah.
If you're asking about the gospel, I think Ray Comfort is the best quick one.
Yes. Yeah.
By far. He's
super sharp and he loves the Lord and he's got a lot of good content out there. But man,
I really don't know
I've had a couple of things that I enjoyed leading with What would be my favorite?
Yeah,
The resurrection is one you can give quick if you do
Yeah.
the minimal facts case, or even just the martyrdom of the apostles. It's just it depends on if you know the person or not. If it's just like a random pitch, if you don't know the person, you have to decide what level do you want them to believe in. Do you want them to believe God exists? Do you want them to believe Jesus exists? Do you want them to believe the Bible is reliable? Do you want them to believe Jesus died and resurrected, or do you want them to believe Jesus is God? Those are different levels of faith you need to have, and it's hard to do all five at the same time, but you need all five to become a Christian. So you would have to listen to the Holy Spirit to know, okay, which of those five do I need to point out for this person right now? So you could ask probing questions of, are they an atheist, an agnostic, a deist? Do they accept God? Do they accept morality? What do they think about the Bible? What do they think about Jesus? And then what do they think about his deity, death, burial, resurrection? Those would be the levels you'd have to probe to, and you could ask questions. So if you've ever read the book Tactics, um, if not, go read it. You need to. Every Christian should. Uh, if you've read that book, you know that the number one thing you should do is just ask questions. Asking questions is how you get to the heart of any situation.
that's what Jesus
So
did.
it's what Jesus did. So my favorite example from that book is the first one he gives of the Grey Cockle. Get the revised version, the updated one that has a chessboard as I think it's like the 10-year anniversary. Adds an extra like 6 arguments on the back end. Pretty cool. Mine is upstairs, so I can't easily show it to you right now. That book
on
is
Audible.
great because it is on Audible. The Witch in Wisconsin. That is a great story of he only interacted with her long enough to purchase something because she was a cashier. But in that moment of time, he discovered that she was a witch, that she's like actively rejecting God, and he figured out why. And he was able to lay the seed, do the groundwork for someone else to speak into her life, the gospel. So the overwhelming majority of the time, you're not going to want to try to give the gospel. You're going to want to try to break down one of those 5 barriers to faith in Jesus. And then the gospel given will be given whenever the Holy Spirit, facilitates it. But our role mostly is just to listen to the Holy Spirit, figure out which of those 5 we need to focus on, ask questions to gain information on it, and then come up with very specific, simple apologetics for each of those points. The Bible's not been corrupted. We have 30,000 manuscripts early on in Greek, Latin, Syriac that we can reconstruct the Bible from. So we know with almost certainty what the Bible said. Or, Jesus, he obviously resurrected because his disciples were tortured to death saying that he did. And it was a bunch of people all at once. And then you like go through all of those things one after the other. Oh, God obviously exists because of the infinite regress problem. Obviously for today to happen, yesterday had to happen. Well, in order for yesterday to happen, there had to be a day before that. You have to keep going back into infinite past. If that happens, how do you get to today? You're stuck in the past somewhere. So how do you get to now? There's versions of all these arguments you can give in 30 seconds.
Right.
And then if it interests them, you give a 5-minute version. If it really interests them, you give an hour, 2-hour conversation over like lunch or coffee or something.
Right. I think kind of what you said about like you have to determine where someone's at. I think now that I'm like really contemplating what I've done in the past, I have used aspects of SMART depending on the situation I'm in. So like if I'm having a conversation with someone and it's revolving around science, my elevator pitch would be, so what do you do about DNA? Right. So how do you comprehend that DNA is a language that creates matter and puts reality together? Like how is a language the basis for everything? And it's 100% intelligent. And then like if it's a societal thing, we're talking about like some right or wrong in current state of affairs in the world, I might bring up something about morality where I'm like, well, so how do you know that person is right or wrong? And then if we are actually on the topic of the Bible, I will probably mention something like Isaiah 53. So I'll bring up scripture and say, well, did you know that like this prophecy actually got fulfilled? And I will bring it up before them and I'll read it for them and hear what they have to say about it. And then if they are open to Christianity but they're confused about some things or questioning some things, I would bring them to the resurrection, and I would talk about the martyrdom of the apostles. And then if there's someone who is overall open, I would bring up like how reality itself is incredibly evident of some type of creator or intelligent design. So I do think you can use, like you said, using the whole thing, not really possible in an elevator pitch, but I think you can absolutely use aspects of this, depending on where that person is. Like Chris was saying, I also think that sometimes just naturally in conversation, like the way I tend to do things, I like to build relationships with people. And so like where I view myself on mission in my everyday life. So wherever I am, I'm gonna be talking about Jesus in some capacity. And one of my favorite ways to do that is just to tell people what I've been reading lately. Whether it's a Christian book I'm reading, because like sometimes my, one of my favorite stories is that there's a really gruesome story at the end of Judges, of a woman being chopped
Woman
into
getting cut
pieces
up. Yeah.
and delivered to the different tribes of Israel. I
After being
was,
brutally killed.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was very aware that that story would be compelling to somebody I worked with at the time. And so after I read it, I actually just went up to him and said, "You want to know a crazy thing I read in the Bible yesterday?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And I told him, he goes, "That's in the Bible?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, that's pretty metal." I was like, "Yeah, it's crazy."
Yeah, it's
Uh,
crazy.
and so like I know some of my coworkers like history conversations, and so when I read in Dominion that like Christopher Columbus thought that he was fulfilling Revelation and thought he was finding the new heaven and the new earth and saw himself as the new Moses, I just tell people about that, and they're like, "Wow, that's crazy, I didn't know that." And I didn't either, and I'm like, "Yeah." And it sparks that conversation where it opens up the ability to have deeper talk. I actually, funny funny enough, in our group chat last night, we were talking about open theism. I used that as a conversation starter with a bunch of people who think a bit more philosophically at work today. I started asking them about it. I was like, "What do you think about this?" And it caused us to have a deeper conversation. And so, um, sometimes I think the best elevator pitch is if you're actively reading your Bible, if you're actively reading Christian literature, open the conversation with, "Hey, do you want to hear about this like crazy thing I read last night?" And just start there and see where that takes the conversation, because it can open the door to something way deeper that you couldn't have gotten to if you just tried to drop that on somebody.
Mhm.
But yeah. Okay.
I do like Where Are You Going When You Die? That's one of my favorites.
The right comfort.
Yeah. Where you think you're going?
Thank you, Corey.
10 out
Or
of 10
what
Paul knowledge.
or what do you think happens? It would probably be a better way to phrase it, but yeah.
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 Hey, you want to take a test?
Yeah, I do think that, especially if you're going up to someone you don't know, I do think that's probably a good entryway. And I think
Because you learn a lot.
yeah, I think I actually, the way he does it specifically that I think would be really good is when he says, "Do you think you're a good person?"
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he goes down the list of the 10 commandments and they, they say like, "Oh no, I've done this, I've done that." And then he says, "Okay, well, by your own admission, you are this." I think he's like, and then if you were to die right now, like, where would you go? And so I think that's probably one of the best ways to just, for someone you don't know. And then if that gets conversation going, you roll into one of the other things we've mentioned up to this point.
Another one of my favorite things to do is using the situation that I'm in to share the gospel with people. So like I remember I was going to brain surgery, this would have been 2 years ago, and I was laying down on the thing, but not on the table yet. I was just on the rolly bed. And they'd already given me my anesthetics and they were like, "Well, what do you think? Are you ready?" And I was like, whether I wake up back here on this bed or I wake up in heaven, I know everything's going to be all right. And they just kind of looked at me and then continued to roll me back there. And it's just little things like that to just kind of, and it didn't end up leading to a deeper conversation, but hey,
Yeah.
The seed was planted.
it was
Yeah,
there.
the seed was absolutely planted.
I had an experience that I could use in that same way. Like, my daughter is 2. She pooped on the toilet. She's
Mhm.
potty training. She decided to wipe instead of waiting for me. She does not know how to wipe. So she goes and she just grabs and just a full hand of poop. And then she's just sitting there and she's like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just stuck with this dirty, poopy hand. And she didn't say daddy. My son actually comes in and says, Daddy, my sister has poop on hand. Okay, let's do this. And she's just sitting there paralyzed with her poopy hand. In the same way, before God, we have the stain of sin on our hands. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to clean it. We don't know how to wipe ourselves. We don't know how to actually deal with our sin. So we're just paralyzed. And whenever we call on God to come, our Father to come to fix the situation, He can cleanse us. He can remove the poop from our hands, remove the poop from our life, and
Amen.
keep us clean. Or we can just ignore it and sit in our filth, sit paralyzed, not able to do anything, thinking we're trying to do something good of wiping the poop away, thinking we can handle it when we can't. And we need our daddy to come in and clean us up.
You're right. That is a really good illustration. So yeah,
Kids be wild, man.
Yeah, they do. As someone who worked in childcare, I didn't not having kids of my own, but working in the childcare field and seeing kids every week and having to deal with their problems. And I will never forget. I will never forget. It was just me, I think, for this service, and I'm in the nursery dealing with crisis of screaming babies, and as I'm leaving the nursery, our special needs room, I did not hear them yelling for help because I was handling a bunch of screaming children. And as I'm trying to go upstairs to check on my own classrooms, they're just like, "Help!" And I see, I'm like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And you just no one prepares you for when a kid poops themselves, and you're never really ready for it. And I learned that day that what's the what's the quote from Transformers? What's Optimus Prime? He's on top of a pyramid and he says, "Fate rarely calls upon us in a moment of our choosing." I think about that quote very often, and that moment was for me when fate had called upon me to clean up a poop mess, and it was not at the time of my choosing. I don't know if I could use that for the gospel, but man, it was really funny.
Man, kids come out pooping.
So we had to call the parents and be like, "Hey, we don't have any extra like pants for your son. Can you come get him?" Oh, it was so funny.
Oof.
Yeah.
We can laugh about it now. It was
time.
very stressful in the moment, but man, really funny in retrospect.
Smelly too.
Yeah. Oh man. Also, again, I know we need to wrap up, but another great story was one time I the it was the worst childcare nights were the extra services. So that's like, when kids are coming in at night and are being watched while their parents go to like the special service. And so this is typically when we expect kids to kind of act a little wild. But these 2 kids, they were playing with a carport and like little Hot Wheels cars. And there was also these like light up blocks and a car base, and they were magnetic, they're like magnetiles. And so one kid built a car with the magnetiles. But this other kid had aligned the cars perfectly where every parking spot had a vehicle in it. And he was really happy about what he had. And he didn't want it to be messed with. But the other kid was unaware of that. And so he takes his car and drives it onto the parking lot, smashing into all the other cars and flinging the cars everywhere. The other kid responded very calm by screaming, and then he took his hand and he smacked the magnetiles, and they exploded. And the volunteer looks at me, and she's like, and I just go over there. I just like, we weren't supposed to pick up the kids by this age, but I did just go over there. I grabbed him, picked him up like this, and I just like walked him to the corner and I put him down and said, "Now, why did you do that?"
Yeah, that's fatherhood right there. You get a lot of those.
Yeah. Very rationally told me, like, well, I had the cars here, and he ruined it.
Kids are extremely rational until they hit puberty. Then it's all downhill, and then you get rational again in your 30s. Yeah.
Your frontal lobe finishes developing at 25, and then you spend the next 5 years regretting all your decisions before 25.
Right, yeah. You also have a lot of your hormones are finally settling. So actually, you like little humans, like 6-year-olds, are pure logic machines that mostly manage their emotions. Like 8-year-olds are like pure logic. They hit puberty, they go through a bunch of hormones and lose all of their logic capabilities.
Yeah.
For years.
Then they become functioning sociopaths.
Right, yeah. And then they go back to being human. So
they lose their humanity for about 10 years.
Teenage dirtbag.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, the song Teenagers by My Chemical Romance makes a lot more sense when you know that. They do. They're very scary. Don't actually look at that song. It says a bad word. I shouldn't recommend that.
Teenager scare.
Don't complete it. We're a family program. All right. Okay, so again, I've kind of just been drawing it out because we have like a lot of people watching at the moment. But hey, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up with that. We are at the 2-hour mark. If you're watching now, you can start back at the beginning and watch the actual course. Thank you for joining in. And next week we will be live again for starting up the arguments against God. And then tomorrow night, if you want to check us out, we will be with Chris on Defending a Lion. And we will be going through, are we finishing up the book about Muhammad?
I kind of just want to go through how Muhammad was a moral monster.
Yeah, we abrogated that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Well, and
I just go through all the terrible things, Muhammad. It's not going to be family fun rated.
Okay.
It's going to have an SFW rating on it.
Okay, good to know. So if you're listening right now on Defending a Lion, which will be tagged in the description of this video, so you should go subscribe to Chris's channel. Yep, there's the logo for Defending a Lion right there. We will be live tomorrow night, like late again, like 9-ish.
9:30.
9:30
Central.
I work till 9:45, so we will.
That's when we'll be going live, Chris.
Again. Yes.
Okay.
9:30 Central. So yeah, join us for that. Even if it might also just be Chase and Chris. I may be a little late. But join us for that to talk about, if you are interested on topics on Islam, that is a great place to come. And then Saturday, I may or may not be on that one, depending on what I've got going on with my wife. But Saturday night, Chase will be live at 7 with his friend and possibly myself. And we will be doing open call debate time. So if you are someone who wants to debate us and you are in the chat right now, Saturday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, come back and you can debate us about anything. It is open debate, open challenge for literally anything.
Especially if you're a determinist. I've been very hot on the determinism trail recently. And so I would be more than happy to debate a determinist, whether you're a Muslim, a Calvinist, or an atheist. Come on at me.
All right. And then if you for next week, Tuesdays, we are with Adam Seeker, and that is also on our channel. So we have be on the lookout for our regular releases. I'm gonna clip that part about our gospel outreach. I think that would be a really good video. So I'm gonna clip that for a short video that'll probably come out this week, later in the week. And then we are live on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Wednesdays for apologetics.
Tuesdays at
9
6.
p.m. Central. Oh yeah. Oh, it is at 6. Okay, sorry. Let's restart. We are
It's okay.
live on Tuesdays with Adam Seeker discussing Islam at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are live on Wednesdays for apologetics curriculum at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We are live on Thursdays with Chris on Defending a Lion at 9:30 Central Standard Time.
Sometimes.
And we are live. And then we are live on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for open debate. Some of these things are always up in the air, but this is our typical schedule. And then we also have our regular releases.
Thursdays, the time, we're always live on Thursdays with Chris, but the time sometimes changes because Chris is not exactly the most time-bound individual, and he likes to change things on us.
My wife changes it. I just have to go along with her.
Yeah.
Good as a good husband.
Throwing her under the bus, absolutely. Yeah.
No,
she's taking night classes right now at a community college for sign language. So I can't really go live with my kids here without her here. So
not unless you can redact their faces in real time.
Right. Or hopefully keep them happy watching Frozen for the duration of a stream. But that, I stream longer than Frozen. So
yeah,
that is true. Okay. Well, thank you guys for watching. And once again, check us out tomorrow and see you all hopefully next week. Peace out.
Peace.